What's up, everybody? Chad Ferguson here, Catfish Agent. Today, I'm going to talk about everything about catfish boat rod holders, how to lay them out for your type of fishing, how I like to set up the rod holders on my catfish boat, and some great tips for quick and easy installation without drilling a bunch of holes and making sure that they're all lined up just perfectly. So let's get started.
So I run the Driftmaster Pro Duo rod holders. These rod holders here, these are 0 and 30 degree rod holders. So what that means is you have two different positions for your fishing rods. You can put a rod like this, which is basically going to set flat, or you can use this upward position, which is basically going to put your rod at about a 30 degree angle, and it's going to keep your rod tip up in the air. I've been using these for a number of years now, and I've been super happy with them. Never had any issues, and they're super tough. I also like to use these Driftmaster round rail bases with this rail on the SeaArk ProCat. These round rail bases work really well because you don't have to drill a bunch of holes or anything. I always try, if I can, to punch as few holes as possible into a boat, and the rail in combination with these round rail rod holder bases make that super simple. Now there's a number of different versions of these, and the ones that I like to use, I'll post the part number and a link in the details below, but the one that I like to use is this one that has the set screw in it. There is another version that does not have the set screw, but what this does, you put this on your rail, get it leveled and everything, tighten these nuts up, and then once you have the position and everything good, you come in the bottom with an Allen wrench and tighten that up, and that really locks that base into place. What I've done here, because I fish a lot of different ways, the best layout for rod holders on your catfish boat is really going to depend on your style of fishing, where you're fishing. You know, a lot of guys fish in rivers and they only fish off the back of the boat. A lot of guys only fish off the side of the boat. You know, there's all sorts of different fishing styles. And because I fish a lot of different ways for a lot of different species and fish year round, I really have to set up for a lot of different techniques. And this is what I have found has worked best for me over the years. And this works so I can fish off the front of the boat and suspend drift using the trolling motor. I can fish off the sides of the boat, drifting on either side. I can anchor, fish off the backs, sides, and front, or I can just fish off the back of the boat as well. And this kind of works for anything that I need to do in any technique, and I'm not having to worry about moving things around. So the first thing that I've done is I came in and I took the cat rack off. I had the SeaArk cat rack running across the back here. I'm not going to use that right now just because it's summer, and I typically use that in the cooler months. So what I've done is just gone through both sides on the rails and laid these round rail bases up and down the rails and spaced them on both sides, on the front and then on the back. That way I can get the spacing right, exactly like I want it, so my rods are spread out down the sides of the boat, and then so I can use any of the techniques that I want to use. So I put these bases on, put the nuts on the bottom of the bases, just kind of barely snugged them up with my hand, put a tape measure, verified the spacing because I want the spacing on both sides to be the same, so they're all in tandem on either side of the boat. Just OCD on my part. And then what I've done after that is I've come up to this first base and put a level on it. I just used my little iPhone level. I leveled this first base, made sure that it was sitting perfectly level, snugged up these nuts here on the bottom, and then I've put a rod holder in that base just so I can check it and make sure that it's exactly like I want it. And then once I've verified that I have it exactly like I want it here, I'm going to come back behind and I'm going to really snug this up, and then I'm going to go down and do the rest of them. Now, the reason that I've done this first one like this. Let me take this rod holder out. The reason I've done this first one like this is I want to go ahead and snug this one up good. Whenever you put a level on these things, you know, that'll just help to make sure that when you get on the water, they're not sitting wonky. And another one of my pet peeves with a boat is when I get all my rods in the rod holders, like if I'm fishing off the side of the boat, drifting, for example, is if the rod holders aren't straight. So it just drives me nuts if I get all the rods in and then I look and all the rods are sitting at a slightly different angle because they're not straight. So I'm going to snug this up, just kind of move back and forth. If you'll tighten up one side, then tighten up the other and work your way back and forth, it'll seem like it's throwing the level a little bit off initially, but then once you get it tight, if you'll go back and check it, you'll see that it's correct. So I'm going to go ahead and snug that up. I'm going to work my way down and fix the rest of them, and then when I have everything done, I'm going to come back and tighten up that little set screw on the bottom with an Allen wrench. But the reason that I've started with this first one here in the front, and again, I've gone down with a tape measure, checked my spacing all the way down on both sides. So now that I've leveled this first one, what I'm going to do is just take a straight edge and put it on this first one. And then I'm going to come down here to the second base. I'm going to hand snug it real quick. Give it a couple of quick turns with the ratchet. Just get it kind of semi-tight so it won't move on me. Then I'm going to go from that one down to the next one and do the same thing. And putting that straight edge on there will help to get those things in line so they're all the same and they're all level. So I'm going to tighten these four up here on this front rail up. And then once I've got these tightened up good, or we'll say snug, so they're not going to move, then what I'm going to kind of do is come back through and put that iPhone level back on them and make sure that they're all correct. So now that I've gone through, checked all those, made sure that they were all right. I had to adjust one of them, was just a little bit off. I'm going to go through and repeat that process going all the way around the boat. Now another option with SeaArk and some of the other manufacturers is this track rail system. And there's some rod holder bases that will work with this track rail. You can put them in here and you can use that option for mounting rod holders and putting the bases in there, and a lot of people like to use those. I like to use these round rail mounts because I like my rod holders to be up a little bit higher so I can get to them easier. And I also, with these rails on the ProCat, I don't want the rod holders sitting back behind this rail. I kind of want them up and out as much as possible. Now the big advantage of using those round rail mounts, again, is not having to punch a bunch of holes in the boat. You can just mount directly on that rail and you're not having to screw in 2 or 3 screws or more for every basis. Some of them use as many as 4. You know, 16 rod holders I'm mounting today on those rails, that would be 32 to 64 holes depending on the bases that you were using if you were actually screwing bases into the boat. So I'm working on this initial setup today just to get these rod holders mounted on the rails, and then I'm going to come back and just kind of take a look at it, see if there's anything else I need to add or tweak once I get it out on the water and have used it a couple of times, and then I'm going to get that cat rack set up. Again, one of the beauties of these round rail bases like this and mounting on a rail, or if you go into the track system, is you can make adjustments and you can move these things around You're not going to end up with the boat looking like Swiss cheese if you have to do that. I'll be back with some more rigging tips, catfishing tips, and more here in the very near future. I'll be back with some more rigging tips, catfishing tips, and other information here in the very near future. If you like this information, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and let us know. Until next time, I'm Chad Ferguson, catfishedge.com.